Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about here on this Monday as we first want to discuss the latest in the case of the mother of the 6-year-old boy who shot his Virginia teacher and the latest sentence that the mother got. This story was crazy, but this ending, I'm not sure if this is justice or not. We will certainly talk about it. Also, let's talk about the crime rate, politics, and how we see the world. Do you think that the crime rate is rising in America? If so, you're not the only one, but the FBI would happen to disagree. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, we'll check in with Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams with this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, and she has us discussing Holiday Heart and a whole lot more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Monday, folks. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, it's like 1 week away that Christmas will happen next Monday. Yeah, 1 week away. Man, the time has flown by for 2023. We are almost at the end of the year, but we'll certainly talk a little bit about that. But today, folks, we got a lot to talk about. Talking about the mother of the 6-year-old boy who shot his teacher in Virginia and so much more. But before we get to those conversations, let's first just acknowledge the fact that you are watching us here on a number of different platforms, and let your friends and family know that the culture has officially kicked off today for the week. So make sure you tell them that they can check us out first at our home website at blackstarnetwork.com. You can download the app for us and download the app on all of your devices for free. You can follow us on social media at Black Star Network, and we would love to get your financial support to continue to show your support for the work that we're doing here on Black Star Network, as we're looking for investors and stakeholders in this digital movement. So again, go to our website today, folks, at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, you're finding us on Amazon News and your Fire TV. Make sure you check us out there on Amazon News, and we're also on Amazon Prime Video. And on our Prime, you can check out Prime Video app under Live TV, The News, and find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, The News. You can check us out there. We're also in Freevee, where you can find us there on now under News. So make sure you see the work we're doing on Freevee and on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network, or find us on the Live TV, The News, and Opinions. So let me check in with the important people of the conversation, which is you. Big shout out to my online culture crew. Let's give them a little something, something. Happy Monday, crew, as y'all are checking in from around the country. There we go. And folks, we are streaming on a number of different social media platforms, including Facebook. You can check us out on Roland Martin's Facebook page. We're streaming there, and on Roland Martin's YouTube page. And it's on our YouTube page where you can join us in the live chat, where people are gathering right now. So let's go through it. Let's see. We got the ABX girl is checking in. Conscious Thought has checked in. I see you, Conscious. Thank you, brother, for checking in. The ABX girl happy. Hey. Cindy D, I see you. Michelle Lewis. Hello, Michelle. Good to connect with you again. Pretty Sexy 82 Leo. You said I'm here. Well, I'm here too, Michelle, and I'm so happy that you're here to join us. Pretty Sexy. There we go. Deidre Hall, happy Hey Culture crew. Hey, Deidre. Good connecting with you. Mingly Natasha Surge. I see you, sis. I see you. Pauline Hurt, my sister from Cleveland. What's up going on, Pauline? I hope you had a great weekend. Miss Robin Welch, thank you so much for checking in as always, and I hope you've had a blessed Monday so far, Robin. Thank you. Big brother Willie Frazier, good afternoon to you too, big brother. And I hope you had a fantastic weekend, brother Willie. Pretty Brown Mimi, 726. Happy Monday, Farajii. Happy Monday, Mimi. Always a pleasure to check in with you. My sister Lana, always holding it down. She said, hit that like, smash the share. Yes. We got to get Farajii to 1,000 views. I hear that. I hear that. Old Skirt One, you checked in the Yell Out family. What's up, Old Skirt One? Thank you so much for checking in as always. And Carolyn Harris, I see you, Carolyn. You said here, present. I'm ready for the action. Let's go, Carolyn. Thank you for once again for being with us. All right, let's do this. Let's first talk. Now, look, I know there's been some breaking news, and I'm gonna try to see if we can talk a little bit about this later about the situation with Jonathan Major, as it has been announced that he has been found guilty, folks, of assault and harassment, misdemeanor charges. But we're going to talk a little bit about it. But I did want to at least acknowledge that breaking news just came across the wire a few minutes ago. So that Jonathan Major situation with his ex-girlfriend and that situation in a van that you saw footage, some of you may have seen footage him running in the streets of New York and all of those things. That official word has come out to say that he is guilty of assault and harassment, but these are misdemeanor charges. But he is looking at if sentenced up to 1 year in prison. But we'll certainly talk a little bit more about that. But we got to keep you up to date on some of the big stories that are happening right now. So we'll get back to that in a little bit. But first, let's talk about the mother of the 6-year-old here. You all remember that sister who was Miss Deja Taylor. This is the mother of the 6-year-old who brought the gun to school in the state of Virginia, happened to shoot his teacher, but then they found out that he was, when doing some investigation, that the gun was accessible to the 6-year-old. So that was one issue that Ms. Deja Taylor was facing. And then they also found some drug paraphernalia. I think it was, she was taking marijuana of some sort. So there was some drug paraphernalia. And so essentially they were saying that there was some level of neglect that was happening in the household. Well, she was sentenced over the weekend, this past Friday. She was sentenced on a felony child neglect charge related to the shooting of her son's first grade teacher, Abigail Werner, in Newport News. Now, this could have, Ms. Taylor, she's 26 years old. She could have faced as long as 5 years in prison, but according to the reports, was given a shorter sentence by Circuit Court Judge Christopher Papple, that it includes 2 years of probation. But the judge's punishment was harsher than the 6 months behind bars suggested by prosecutors, who, as a part of a plea deal, dropped a misdemeanor charge of reckless storage of a firearm. So Ms. Deja Taylor has now been sentenced for 2 years. She must begin her state sentence after she finishes serving 21 months on a related federal charge. Now, y'all remember that she pled guilty back in June to a charge of using marijuana while owning a gun, which is illegal under federal law, and she was sentenced last month for that. So according to the family's lawyer, Mr. James Ellenson, he said that Taylor's son, who is now 7, remains under the care of his great-grandfather, Calvin Taylor, and that Miss Deja Taylor can have supervised contact with her son at Calvin Taylor's discretion. He put out a statement saying, quote, "We are disappointed in the judge's sentence and believe it was excessive given her mental health issues, as well as her being the repeated victim of domestic violence." This story continues to move in all types of different directions. Crew, I want to get your take on this. What do you think? Do you feel like this was something, you feel like this is some form of justice, or do you think this was too much? Again, they were looking at 6 months, and they were trying to just something that gets the message across, but it doesn't impact her as much. But we're talking about 2 years now for this sentence. And I would love to get your take on this. Post your comments in the YouTube chat as we're streaming live there. And I would love to get your take on what you think happened with this situation. And the great thing is, of course, we've been saying this since we've been talking about this story, that no one was killed in this incident. No classmate of her son was injured in this incident. And that the teacher, certainly, as much as she was injured, I think she was just trying to even move forward and doing some type of civil case against Ms. Taylor. So we'll see if that happens. But what's your take on this? Join us in the conversation, post your comments, and we would love to hear what you got to say. I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's go further into this conversation. This conversation has sparked or renewed the discussions around gun access and gun violence. This conversation has talked about parental care, neglect, and mental health, as you heard her lawyer say, and so much more. So let's get into a little bit of the discussion around this. Join us on the other side. Stay with us, folks. We're just getting started right here on Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We're talking about Ms. Deja Taylor, the mother of the 6-year-old who shot his teacher in the state of Virginia, and essentially just injuring her. But it was an intentional shot that the 6-year-old did to his teacher. And after all the smoke had settled and all of was said and done, it looks like Ms. Deja Taylor is the one that's going to be held responsible and liable for this situation, as she has just been sentenced just this past Friday to 2 years. She was sentenced as a result of child neglect. Now, this is her time in prison because they have found that not only did the gun that the 6-year-old used was easily accessible to the 6-year-old, I think it was sitting on a dresser, the last report that I read, but that there was also marijuana paraphernalia, drugs and other paraphernalia that was around on the scene when the investigation kicked off. And that's illegal, that you cannot use marijuana and own a firearm. That's illegal for federal law. So as a result of that, Ms. Taylor was held responsible for the shooting of her son's teacher, Ms. Werner. Now, I want to make a quick correction. I said that Ms. Werner filed a lawsuit against Ms. Taylor. I want to correct myself. She actually filed a lawsuit against the school district for not heeding the warnings that from staff and other students that Ms. Taylor's son had a gun. She filed a $40 million lawsuit against the district, and that's still being determined. But it speaks volumes about, again, this case has like multiple levels to it. You're talking about access to guns. You're talking about gun safety and violence. You're talking about how do school districts handle things like this. You're talking about parenting and parental neglect. You're talking about mental health and the use of marijuana. I mean, there are a lot of different pieces in this case that's wrapped up in this one case. And so I want to get your take on this, crew. Share your thoughts with us as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. What's your take on this? Do you think a 2-year sentence is good? Is it just? Or is this overdoing it? Especially when the prosecutor was essentially asking for 6 months of some sort of punishment for Miss Taylor. But I think the judge probably took into account all of the issues, all of the different factors that I just laid out, and just say, this is too much. This is too much. And I think who said this here? And let's check the chat, because I know many of you are posting this. Let me see here. Oh, I just saw it. Y'all talked about making her an example. Mingli Natasha Surge. That's what you said. They made an example out of her, as they should. A child should not be anywhere near guns, period. So it sounds like, Mingli, that you think that this was the suitable sentence for Miss Taylor, 26-year-old Miss Deja Taylor. They made it. They are definitely making an example out of her. They are definitely making an example out of her. Carolyn Harrison, Carolyn, thank you for checking in. You said, sounds like this young woman needs help. I like to see more help for folks like her. Yeah, I think that was one of the things that her defense attorney was trying to get across, that she was going through some sort of mental health challenge, she's been battling some sort of mental health issue, but that did not come across to the judge when he set this sentence. Sean Ryan, you posted, did the teacher die? Or what she ended? No, she did not die, but she was shot in the hand. And so she did not die. Thankfully, that didn't happen, because it would have gotten from bad to worse. But, she was just injured. But the fact that this little boy took the gun to school. Now, again, the boy is in the custody of his great-grandfather, Calvin Taylor. So he'll be there while his mother is going through this ordeal. But Sean, you also said, this is from you, Sean Ryan, you said let little kids have access to firearms. That's not being a responsible parent. Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're talking about gun safety, you're talking about putting the gun in a space that they can't have access to. You're talking about putting the gun in, making sure the safety locks, taking all those precautions and seeing that. Lana, you have a different take on this. You said, this is wrong and a target on Black motherhood. She should be punished for sure. But they are trying to make her the face of Kyle Rittenhouse parent. Pay attention. Kyle Rittenhouse, the white terrorist that committed that murder of our people. And you're saying pay attention. Well, it's interesting, Lana, because the situation, I think, with this one is, and like more details have been coming out about this case in terms of her, like the attorney brought up the mental health thing, which I didn't know, but I did not know she was also a victim of domestic abuse. So now it becomes the even more sensitive and a slippery slope, a more sensitive situation, a slippery slope, because are you criminalizing women who have been victimized and then you re-traumatizing them all over again to be victimized? Is this what's happening? Like, why did she have the gun in the house the way she did? Was she afraid that her abuser would come back? I mean, it's a lot there. That's a lot there. You are not a victim. Good connecting with you once again. Welcome back to the chat. You said, sir, by the grace of God, nobody was killed. The child could have killed someone, let alone someone else. She was not being responsible with the storage of the firearm. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Cindy D, my sister, good to connect with you once again. You said she was careless in her home. You have to be aware of what happens in your home and how it affects your children. It's not overdoing it. Okay. So you see that justice is being served here in this whole situation. Okay. Tia Z, good to connect with you, Tia. Responsible parents won't do this, but does this law apply for opiate or meth using hillbillies? Are they enforced in Appalachia? Just asking. I don't know. Good question. But for those who are living in the mountains and those who are living in West Virginia, in those parts of the country, I don't know. Don't know. We might not see that. But here's the thing, though. This is the point that I think we should keep in mind too, Tia. There's always going to be a double standard. So I'm surprised. I don't know if anybody else is. I'm surprised when there isn't a double standard, when we don't see race as being a major factor, when we do see the equity in punishment and consequences. That's when I'm surprised. I'm not surprised if there's a double standard. There's been a double standard for us for years. So, getting mad about the double standard that we know exists, that has existed, and unfortunately might be continue to exist for a while, I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. Keisha Poole, thank you for checking, and Tia, thank you, sis. Keisha Poole, you said 2 years is too much, and I haven't heard anything being done to address all of her issues. No. I don't know what's going to address her mental health issue. I don't know what's going to address the fact that she's a domestic abuser, a survivor of domestic abuse. I don't know. I think that the son, the 6-year-old, needs some mental health help as well. I know the grandfather's taking care of him, but he needs to go see a therapist. It's a lot. It is absolutely a lot. Patricia Springs, thank you so much for posting that, Keisha. We truly appreciate you. Patricia Springs, you said, I agree that she should be held accountable for what her son did, but 2 years in prison is not the answer. I do not think prison was the way to go. Does he have other children? Let me check to see if he has other children. We're going to have to check to see that one. But you're saying that it's not the way to go. We want to lock people up instead of rehabilitating them. That's an ongoing debate. You and I both know it, Patricia, but I hear you loud and clear. Look, I got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's continue to get a couple of more of your thoughts, and then let's switch gears, because as much as we talk about gun violence, guess what, folks? Just as much as we hear stories like this, people are asking the question, is America becoming more violent? And a lot of people in this country believe that we are, that the violence is out of control, unmanageable. But I'm going to share with you what the FBI's response to those answers are on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
all momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We're talking about the case of Deja Taylor, the 26-year-old mother of the 6-year-old boy who shot his teacher in Virginia, shooting her in the hand. And as a result of that shooting, the mother has now been sentenced to 2 years due to child neglect and charged relating to the shooting of her son's first grade teacher in Newport News, Virginia. And also because of her marijuana use, which is a crime. It's illegal for you to use drugs like marijuana and own a gun. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back. When they saw marijuana, they saw the fact that the gun was accessible by a child. And looking further into this case, folks, and there's a lot of new details that are coming up to give us a complete picture of what has happened or what's been happening in this household, was that it was reported that on the morning of the shooting, Miss Taylor believed the gun was in her purse with the trigger installed and left on top of her bedroom dresser. According to a probable cause statement, she added that the key for the lock was kept under her bedroom mattress. So she thought that the lock was installed, the key was under the bedroom mattress where her son could not get to it. Now, here's the part that we didn't know that's now being part of this whole situation. The child's family has said that the little boy suffers from a, quote, acute disability, and that he had received treatment he needs under a court-ordered temporary detention at a medical facility. Acute disability. As part of a care plan at the school, the boy's parents were supposed to be with him daily, but were absent on the day of the shooting. So this little boy has had some issues, right? Some mental health issues, and he has an acute disability according to the child's family. So they were supposed to supervise him on the morning or on the day of the shooting. Now, in a sentencing memo on the federal drug charge, prosecutors also shared new details about the home life, including that the boy had twice stolen car keys from Miss Taylor's purse, even crashing her vehicle on one occasion. This is a 6-year-old. In addition, Miss Taylor had apparently fired her gun about a month before the shooting at Rich Neck in an argument over whether her son's father was cheating with another woman, according to text messages obtained by prosecutors. Now, the grandfather, Calvin Taylor, wrote that she is, in a letter of support of Miss Deja Taylor ahead of her sentencing. He wrote that she is undergoing therapy and substance abuse counseling and continues to feel horribly with great remorse. He said Deja is and was a victim of abuse and domestic violence. No matter what the results of these circumstances are, Deja has shown resilience and the willpower to build a future for not only herself, but her son as well. And that he was disappointed in the sentencing decision on the state charge, saying that locking her up will not fix the problem. So I hope that gives us more insight into this situation. This seems like, and you are not a victim, you said it seems like an unfit parent, plain and simple. Ming Lee, you said 6 years old crashing cars. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of layers to this. If she found that if the son is taking keys to cars and crashing them, not once, twice, he needs supervision during the school day, that he might be suffering from what the family calls an acute disability. I mean, it's a lot of layers to this. It's a lot of unhealthy things happening in the household, in this family. And Deja might just be at her wit's end in dealing with all of the trauma from her personal life, her personal love life, and then dealing with the behavior of her 6-year-old child who's just getting into stuff. I can't get past the fact that this little boy was 6 years old and he's already been mischievous and in all types of stuff, taking a car and woo. Chandra Bosley, thank you for checking in. You said the son knew where and how to access its use is horrific, unfit parenting. Where was the intervention before this incident? I don't know, Chandra. I don't know. Good question. We don't know. I don't know if the family tried to intervene, like Mr. Calvin Taylor and others in the family tried to intervene. And, but sometimes you can offer intervention, you can offer help, and some people will just, they could be drowning in life, drowning. And as a result of that, they don't they either tell themselves they're in a state of denial that it's not as big of a problem, they can handle it, or they can be so much underwater by the circumstances they can't see which way is up, they can't see where the light is at the end of the tunnel. That could have been the day she just had a breakdown. We don't know. Again, she was sentenced to 2 years, and this could be a gift and a curse in the same time, y'all. Y'all know what I mean? Sometimes you need to get removed from society to get yourself straight. That's where the rehabilitation kicks in. So you can think about your life. And that might be this type of situation. The thing is, though, if this little boy is doing this to his mother, please, I think Mr. Calvin Taylor should put that little boy in some serious treatment, some serious therapy before he starts to take on some of those same issues in his life. I'm just saying. Glenette Brooks, you said my parents owned guns, but as a child, I would have never. My mother would have stomped a mud hole in me. Well, but Glenette, I don't know if it sounds like you may not have experienced the same type of trauma and issues and problems that this 6-year-old boy, to have the presence of mind to say, you know what, that's a gun, that's my parents' property, I'm not going to touch it. That's you. That could have been you. That was probably your thinking. But for this little boy, he's already stolen keys to his mom's car. He already crashed the car. And she used the firearm. She used the gun when she found out her man was with some other woman. Come on. Might be mental health. It's a lot, man. Conscious thought, you said such trauma at such a young age for that 6-year-old boy. Yeah. Cindy D, you said in response to those who might be drowning in life and don't want help, you said they don't want a life jacket for Farajii. Come on. Right. Absolutely. D said, you checking in. You said, are we sending the parents of other kids who bring guns to school and commit mass shootings to jail? Those parents are equally negligent with their weapons as well. Jail is not the only solution. I agree. Jail is not the solution. But here's what I think this case also sheds light on. And like on all of the mass shooting cases, like you mentioned in DC. This system is not designed, I'm talking about the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is not designed to go into no deep therapeutic, rehabilitative work on people's minds and hearts and spirits. That it's not designed that way. I don't see it that way anyway. I don't see it. Now, y'all can disagree, and that's fine, but I don't think the system is designed for that. I think our system is designed for us to lock people up and then for them to figure that stuff out on the inside, and then hopefully we hope and pray that rehabilitation and reform takes place. But when you're talking about longstanding issues from the violence, domestic violence to other things that are happening within individual households, the systems aren't designed, and especially in some states. You're talking about the state of Virginia. So they could, I mean, it's moving along, but it's not moving along in terms of the progress that the state needs to make. And it's Virginia, and it's not the only state. There are a lot of books on the laws in states across this country that puts more emphasis on punishment rather than on rehabilitation and help. So we got to keep that in mind. Look, let me take one more final quick pause, and then we come back and let's wrap this conversation up. Didn't get to the other conversation, but it's all right. We'll get to that later on. But I want to get more of your take on this as we talk about this story, because it sheds a light on a lot of things that's happened. And stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, talking about this unfortunate case of Miss Deja Taylor, the 26-year-old mother of the 6-year-old who shot his teacher in Virginia. She was just sentenced this past Friday to 2 years in prison. And when details have emerged around this case, there's just so many different layers and complexities to this case that it's not, I don't think it's a black and white situation. I just don't think it's that. I think that we're looking at a situation where it's like a perfect storm of stuff that led to this little boy, 6 years old, go to school in Richneck and to shoot his teacher in the hand intentionally. And this was done on the same day that his parents were supposed to supervise him, but did not show up did not show up for him to be supervised, and therefore this happened. A lot of layers here. A lot of layers. And I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that there's something else going on with this little boy, right, at 6 years old, because I'm thinking about my children. I'm sure y'all are thinking about your children, your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren, right? The little children in your family, right? Thinking about yourselves, like the childhood that we have have grown up under. 6 years old. You think about where your mind is at 6 years old. And Glenette, you talked about your parents owned guns, and you never thought at 6 years old that you would want to not only take it, but actually use it. 6 years old. So there's something inherently wrong here that's disrupting a balanced mental state of not just the child, but also the parent as well. And I think this is this is another incident where we have to look at where we are in this country in handling mental health. We have to look at whether the criminal justice system is truly about rehabilitation or just about punishment. We have to look at whether the school systems are truly prepared that even though we have hundreds of mass shootings a year in this country, that Ms. Werner, the teacher and the victim in this situation, was trying to sound the alarm to the district, to people at her school, to the staff members, saying that, look, this boy, something is wrong, something is going to happen, and they didn't do anything. So we're still like very far behind from meeting the reality of all of these things. Who said it? But it was said in the chat, how come we're putting more emphasis on the mother? I think it was you, P-Ro. You said, you talked about how come it was more emphasis on the mother and not the victim. And that's a good point. That's a good point. Because if it's wrong, it's wrong. The victim being a white woman, the perpetrator a black child, the one who suffers the consequence at the hands of that black child is a black mother. Does that have something to do with the fact, right, that it's because a black woman and a black child is the perpetrator in this case, right? Can we not have a conversation and say, you know what, that white teacher, that white educator still did not deserve to be shot at by one of her students? And I think this is culturally an ongoing challenge to where we are, that when things like this happen, first thing we ask is, well, who was white and who was black? And then from that point, biases and all of these other views of each other come into play. And then, you know, it distorts our view of justice. So even if since the teacher was white, does she not deserve justice? And I agree with that, P-Roll. I think you're bringing up an excellent point. I think you're bringing up an excellent point. That if we stand on justice, justice is not racially motivated. Justice stands on its own. It requires fairness. Justice brings equity. Justice says, regardless of what you look like, where you come from, if you're wrong, you have to suffer the consequences. If you're right, then you will be supported. That's justice. Big shout out to my son, Kid Legend 457. He jumped in on the conversation. What's up, Dad? I hear you. I hear you. Well, I'm glad my 10-year-old hears me, because I don't want nothing crazy to happen to him. Big shout out to my son, Nigel, joining us in the conversation as well. So, you know, these things are happening, but we can't look at it as if it's just like, oh, she's a black mother, she's okay. No. We do have to get into a place to be like, you know, just because it was a wrong action done, that woman could have been killed. That woman could have been killed. So thank goodness she was only shot in the hand. And here she is trying to be an educator. Y'all, I know many of you are educators. Imagine just going into this classroom and have to confront that. That's a real danger. That's a real danger. So justice, it has to be there. Ming Lee, you said, where's the daddy? Good question. You'd be like, that's a great question. So we will have to see. And this ends this chapter of the conversation. But I know that because there are so many complexities and layers, that it opens up another chapter of things that there has to be more conversation, especially in the state of Virginia, of how it handles this particular case. But let this be a warning, folks, for us in the community about the culture of guns, about the culture of child neglect, about the culture that we have around mental health and the discussions around this. We still have a lot of ground to cover and still have a lot of work to do. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with our doctor, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And we have just had a dynamic discussion with you about the latest in that situation down in Newport News, Virginia, with the story of Deja Taylor, the mother of the 6-year-old, and how she was recently sentenced to 2 years in prison on this past Friday for a number of child neglect charges and having the firearm while using drugs. So it's a whole story. If you missed the first hour, make sure y'all check us out and go back to be a part of Team Replay. And we will certainly, and I'm telling you, will certainly find the conversations and be very informative and enlightening. But now, as we talk about mental health, as we talk about wellness, as we do each and every Monday here on The Culture, we want to keep you up to date on the things that make sure that you understand about health and wellness. we check in with our sister, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams. And this week, we got something very special for you for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. All right, good afternoon, Doc. How are you today?
Great. How are you, Farajii?
I'm all right. I'm still trying to figure out that situation where I'm the mother and the 6-year-old. It's just, whew, it's a lot.
There's a lot going on out there.
It is a lot with that particular case. But let's talk about another situation relating to a Black mother. And this is in your neck of the woods. And y'all, just for full transparency, when I had asked Dr. Bridget, can she talk on this story? I could feel it through the text messages. She was like, oh, I could definitely talk about this. This is a crazy, crazy case. I've never heard of something like this happening. And I'm very concerned about women, and particularly Black women who might be going through the same thing. So here's the situation. This is the story of Brittany Watts, folks. Brittany Watts, who is 33 years old. She had a fatal miscarriage in her own home when a detective from Warren Police Department out of Ohio came into her hospital room after 2 days after she had this fatal miscarriage in her own home. She was brought to the hospital, connected to the IVs and the whole nine. The detective, Mr. Detective Nick Carney, interviewed Brittany Watts about the details of that morning and the whereabouts of the nearly 22-week-old fetus that was declared non-viable 2 days earlier. Now, she's telling the story of this horrific experience of having a miscarriage in her bathroom. A nurse at Mercy Health at St. Joseph Warren Hospital was there to comfort her. And according to the report from the Washington Post, 2 weeks later, Detective Nick Carney comes back into the hospital, comes back to meet with Miss Watts and arrests her on charges of felony abuse of a corpse for how she handled the remains from her pregnancy. And so if indicted, she will be found guilty. She faces up to a year in prison, along with a fine of up to $2,500, according to her lawyer. She was criminally charged for having a miscarriage in her own home because, according to the Ohio state law, and you got to help me out on this, understanding this, Doc. The Ohio state law is one of several states that mandates that the products of pregnancy be buried or cremated, although a lot of ways these rules, according to the report, these rules typically apply to a healthcare setting, such as like a clinic or doctor's office, rather than the individuals who experiences a pregnancy loss at home or elsewhere. So she was charged for
I think
that.
this has a lot to do with intention as well, right? That here is a young woman who had not even shared her pregnancy with her family yet. And she had just made it to her first prenatal visit. She was just really coming to terms with this whole thing. And then soon after her water broke, she was sent to the hospital, but ended up having this really a stillbirth by this time period in her pregnancy at home. So I think we all need to take a step back and say, what would you do? Particularly if this is way out of your comfort zone. You don't know anyone that's ever been through this. You just went to the doctor just recently. You haven't been given any information of how to really manage this. What would you do? So this wasn't someone who intentionally was trying to cause harm by any means. She probably was in a state of panic. And the problem is, my daughter's cat is here from college. Just the hell out of me. I apologize.
It's all right.
I didn't know what that was. We're talking. Okay. So So the fact of the matter is that this happens at home. This happens in her home, in her bathroom, in the toilet, and she, I guess, like many I think would do, ends up flushing the toilet.
Right.
She probably, now keep in mind, she probably saw more a pool of blood than she saw more of a fetus remain. So let's keep that in mind as well. And what does she do? She flushes the toilet. Problem is that this corpse gets stuck in the pipes. So this is where that's why there's abuse of a corpse in this story. Also,
but the corpse is only 22 weeks.
I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying the corpse is only 22 weeks.
Right. Now,
so how big is that? Is that like how?
I mean, at 22 weeks, we're talking about maybe the size of your hand or so. Maybe, right? And so at this point, pregnancies in Ohio were legal up to the point of 21 weeks and 6 days. She was sitting in the emergency department at 21 weeks and 5 days and waited 8 hours to be seen. So I'm sure part of their argument is that this happened post what is considered what the time period that you're allowed to have an abortion. Again, this is not someone that was choosing to have an abortion. This was, with no doing of her own, a stillbirth. This was a miscarriage. Unfortunately, due to the laws, they're holding her accountable, also accountable in how she managed this, and are wanting to prosecute in this case. There's a couple different layers to this. What goes on in hospitals versus at home, what goes on with Black women versus white women. We're more likely to have miscarriages due to certain medical conditions. And so if we're more likely to have miscarriages, and we're also more likely to have minimal and not informative prenatal care, then we are now in a position that we're being lined up for more criminal prosecution or claims, because we're pretty much putting this where we have the worst part of this lot, if that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so clearly not the best decisions were made in this case, but I ask people to really think, what would you do when you really draw out the whole picture? What would you do?
No, that's a great question. I got to take a quick pause, Doc. But when we come forward, let's talk about this. And so many women in the chat are checking in and kind of posting their thoughts on this, because this is insane. And I know one of the big talking points around this is that because she's a Black woman, she's going to be made an example of, just like some would saying with the previous case of Deja Taylor. So, I don't know if that's the big part, but I think the even bigger conversation is this idea of that women, the bodies, the rights of women can be held against them. And I want you to kind of talk about that as from a physician's perspective, because yes, even though this is political and certainly it deals with law enforcement, it still leaves open this big gaping hole about the reproductive rights and how far we have to go to protect women and having agency over your body and your decisions. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Folks, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We're checking in with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness as we talk about the story of Brittany Watts, the 33-year-old Black woman in the state of Ohio who was arrested and charged for simply having a miscarriage. And more importantly, according to the Ohio state law, she did not handle the remains of her 22-week-old baby in the proper way. And she had miscarried while in the bathroom of her home. And while she was in the hospital, she was confronted by a detective, Detective Nick Carney of the Warren Police Department in Ohio, about the situation, only for Detective Carney to come back to arrest her and charge her for the mishandling of her baby's remains. So, Dr. Bridget, this again, there are so many intersecting issues here with this particular case. You're in the state of Ohio. You have practiced in the state of Ohio. Have you heard about something like this before? Or is this like the first, or this like the precedent case for this?
I haven't heard of this before. And basically, are there miscarriages? Yes. Do they happen at home? Yes. Do I think this is the first time someone decided to flush a toilet? No, I don't think it's the first time someone decided to flush a toilet. Okay. And if you look at the fact that the fact of the matter is, if it was earlier in the pregnancy, this probably wouldn't even have been an issue, right? Because she was dealing with a stillbirth. She was dealing with a baby that was about at 22 weeks of the pregnancy. And because of what happened in the bathroom, it became a legal issue. Here you are, and you have not told your family about your pregnancy. You really barely have started a conversation with a physician. I don't know if people would have known what to do. When I was in my residency, and at that point in time, I was doing deliveries in the hospital. And when I would talk to my young patients about, so what do you do if you start having contractions? And I would get all sorts of answers that I never expected. Many of them thought, oh no, I call 911 right away. I'm like, no, you don't, that's not necessary. You don't call 911 just because you have contractions. And we would have to give them a plan, right? But typically those plans aren't discussed until closer to delivery time. So here's someone who's pregnant, who clearly the thought of delivering was not even she was still way too early on for that. She had no plan. She had no idea what to do. And does that still, like, should she be charged with abuse of as if this was intentionally done? I don't know if they're going to find that to be intentionally done, or simply a young woman who didn't know what the proper procedure was, nor had she been given information to know what that procedure should be.
There we go. And so to that point though, Doc, what needs to happen here? Because it seems like just as much as there is a call for women to have agency over their bodies, for y'all to be able to make those type of decisions, a couple of institutions are still antiquated and left in the dust from this progress. You're talking about everything from the medical industry to even law enforcement agencies. And we can even throw in there some political leadership that are just so far behind and not seeing these things. So how do we bring everybody up on the same page? How do we get everybody to the same place?
I mean, the fact of the matter is, if this country wants to make abortion illegal, then they need to then follow up with how do we educate the public about abortions. The fact that abortion doesn't go away just because you make it illegal. We already know that. We already have a history of that. We have, during, the 40s and 50s, women did all sorts of back alley things to try to some control over their bodies and their futures. And basically, we will return to that. That is not the case here, keep in mind, right? This is a woman who had a non-viable pregnancy. But if you are going to now make a medical option illegal, then you need to educate the public on how to manage whatever happens. Because like I said, when Black women are more likely to have miscarriages, okay? And if they're more likely to have miscarriages, they're 43% increased risk of miscarriages in Black women. We're basically setting up people for more legal issues unless we educate them about how to make. And like I said, these are miscarriages. These are not planned abortions.
Right. Absolutely.
So we need to educate people on what to do. I think that she is literally just an unfortunate circumstance of fear and panic and lack of information.
So do you foresee this possibly pushing, I know Roe v. Wade was just completely, removed, but do you see this pushing for some sort of new legislation? It may not be Roe v. Wade, but some new legislation, because Lana checked in from the crew. She said she knows plenty of women who have experienced this type of stillbirth. There are probably thousands of stories around this. They probably haven't gotten arrested for it, but they probably experienced this and then trying to figure out what to do and how to handle the situation.
The fact of the matter is, it's not like she didn't go to the emergency room. It's not like she didn't go to the hospital.
Right. This is not a back alley thing.
Right. They knew her water was broken. Someone should have said, listen, you're doing okay right now. Go home. If anything happens, this is what you should and should not do. Clearly, no one shared that with her, right? And if they did, then we understand why people would panic in this situation. What are you going to do? And so either she was not educated at all, or she panicked despite that education. I don't know that part of it. But if we are going to have a place where you can actually be imprisoned for something that is not even your fault, then we need to make sure we educate people on what they're supposed to do and not do in case of miscarriages and stillbirths.
Absolutely. Let me get a couple of comments from our crew, because folks are checking in. Daryl Martin, you said, why doesn't the Supreme Court simply decide right to life on a pursuit of happiness constitutional issue? It may allow women liberty to choose, especially for medical reasons, over the women seen. What's your take on that?
I realize that people are so concerned about other people's salvation
Yeah.
And that is really, I think, the driving force behind the pro-life stance. But I feel like it is incredibly overstepping. And if you're worried about my salvation, there's probably a number of other things you could nag me about. You know what I mean? But a woman's body should be a woman's body. Okay. And let people, let Jesus handle this in some ways. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we're letting our human desire for control and our perception of what salvation and life and we're allowing all of that to intersect with someone's right to manage their own body. And of course, the rules always seem to change when it's you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I definitely understand people's concerns about it, but I do believe that when government gets involved with someone's salvation, then haven't we already said that that's overstepping?
Yeah.
I don't, they try to make it seem like this has more to do with life, but they also make it seem that this has more to do with sin. So which one is it? Okay. Because do we care about life? Okay, then stop all the deer hunting. Do we care about life? Then let's stop all the human hunting. Right? And in this case with Brittany, if she did not have that stillbirth, it would have become a medical, like she would have become incredibly ill. Right? So then she was stuck in a place. I mean, like I said, she did nothing to push this ahead, but it was either going to be her or this unborn baby. Right. And so, but we don't care about Brittany's life. No. And again, I think this goes back to intention. Was this someone that intentionally was trying to cause harm? No. Not at
Big
all.
Brother Willie Frazier said exactly, Doc. Let the person take up their decisions with their maker. We aren't supposed to judge. Also, this is separation of church and state.
100%. 100%. And if you can tell, it's just such a sad story to me, because here she is already struggling with all of this. I think about her family. They didn't even know about the pregnancy. Now their loved one, their daughter, their niece, whatever, is in jail for what? What exactly?
And not only is she in jail, Doc, she also she's made national news. Ben Crump is one of her attorneys that has come in to try to figure out how to move forward on this case. Like, so she's gotten all this attention for something that she initially didn't even tell her family when it first happened.
Yeah. And so the ability to have any privacy,
right,
which was probably what she was seeking as she was contemplating everything that was going on in the first place.
Yep.
That's completely blown out the water, right? So I just find it to be incredibly sad. And, as much as people want to judge and determine what someone should do, what would you do? How would you manage this? What would be the step for you? And like I said, it seems like it's almost a catch-22, because you're going to hear more about this. You're going to hear more about back alley abortions. You're going to hear about people going out because now now you can go to jail for it, right? So now you're going to hear about people going out of state, coming back home, being arrested. How dare you have anything to do with what I'm choosing to do?
And we don't even know. And I think the other part of this, Doc, as well, before we take our next pause, we don't know the circumstances, like the father of the baby. We don't know, like if this, we don't know those circumstances of what was going on between her and the baby's father and everything. So this adds another layer to the conversation, because was this a situation where she wanted to keep the baby and then the father may not have wanted it? I mean, we don't know. We don't know those details. And who said in the chat, I think it was you, Daryl Martin, you mentioned the part that these laws about agency of a woman's body, the decisions that women can make in regards to their body, they were determined by men over 100 years ago. And now we're in a very different place, right, girl? We're in a very different place, Doc, in this country where that's not going to fly anymore. Women should have the right to determine what's going on with their bodies, and they should be given and empowered to make the decisions about their bodies. And however they decide to move forward, that's between them and their maker. So we will certainly kind of keep our eyes on this. Folks, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. Let's continue the conversation with Dr. Bridget as we talk about holiday heart and so much more. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Checking in with our doctor, our medical expert, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. And a lot of people, this conversation, Doc, around the story of Brittany Watts has gotten a lot of people back into the mindset of like, how do we kind of make sure that we're doing our part to push the conversation forward? Is there any way that you would recommend, as a family physician, as a woman, what can people do? And I'm wondering, what can Black men do? What can Black women do? What can just all of us do to try to advocate for something, for laws or for protections that is much more fair and equitable and empowering?
Well, I think it starts at home. Okay. So clearly in Brittany's case, she hadn't shared with her family. Like you said, we don't know the situation with the father from this pregnancy or what was going on at home. But I say it starts at home, that as a partner, as a Black man in this relationship, have discussions about what if there is an unexpected pregnancy. What will happen? Have that conversation. I think as Black women, we need to support our daughters and support our loved ones and say, what happens in this case? Now, what do we do to prevent it? Well, what happens? Because women live in fear of the shame and the guilt and being ostracized and excommunicated from family members because of an unexpected pregnancy. And if we can do anything just starting at home, saying you are loved, we will support you, whatever that may be, and take out that fear factor. Let women know that they have support, whatever their decisions may be. And that is the start of decreasing some of these back alley type behaviors that will occur. Okay. Now, with the attorney team that Brittany has, I'm assuming, like you said, that they're trying to make an example out of this case. And I will assume that with the type of attorneys that she has involved, they're going to utilize this hopefully to get some rights back. She doesn't have a shabby team here that are just kind of trying to get the minimum. She has a type of team that is fighting for all people, right? So that hopefully that we can get some rights back. But the fact that we're moving backwards in this point in time, it never occurred to me that my daughters would be growing up in a time where they did not have the right to take care of the bodies the way that they feel that they should. And now that there's been this change, we need to be able to say, we love you, and whatever happens, we walk with you no matter what. People need to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I just feel like we're going into 2024, and the fact that we're having conversations like this, that people are being criminalized for certain things like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And many of our crew, they're saying, where's the empathy? You know, where is the care that we want to have? And this is why I think, Doc, that when we talk about any of these cases, when we're talking about the impact of policy on people's, not just their way of life, but on their mental health. Like if you're living in a system, or you're living under a government, or you're living among a group of people who do not care, legitimately do not care, that's one thing. But it does something to the mind, heart, and spirit when you're living in a group of people who don't care, and those same people are in power.
Yes, absolutely. I would say that we do not get the same maternity care. And I'm not saying having access to it. I'm saying that when we get into that office, we're not treated the same.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get the same care in the office. We're not going to get the same care at the house. I could tell you, just even from my own stories with my own pregnancies, how I was treated at times. And if we're not getting the same care in the office or in the hospital, we already know we're not going to get the same approach with the law. And so this is a setup that we're having to deal with. And so we have to gather together to protect women in our country, our young women that are going to be dealing with these issues. We have to make sure, and we're trying to do more work as far as having healthy pregnancies. Because, we also don't know why this pregnancy wasn't viable, right? And so we need to be able to make sure that we can have healthy pregnancies and women are getting the information that they need. But the fact of the matter is, the system is set up so that we're going to have more issues, and if we're not vigilant, we're going to see a huge shift in how women are going to be treated in this space.
Robin Welch, you checked in and said, this is horrible. People are much more crueler than God will ever be. Where's the empathy for this young lady? To hell with the Supreme Court.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that's the part of this, Doc, that people are not going to take these institutions that has been once been seen as trusted institutions, has been arbiters of a lot of these debates, that folks are not going to, we're not looking to the Supreme Court anymore. We're not looking to state government. We're not looking to, in some cases, people say, hell, the president is not doing enough, or his cabinet is not doing enough, or the vice president is not doing enough. And these are supposed to be the people that the American people, the constituents, can turn to find justice. Yeah. Whether it's the Department of Justice, we're not looking to that no more. We're not looking to the medical industry. So people are going through all of these changes. Laws are being passed. People's lives are being affected. And the constituents feel like, you know what? I'm going to have to start taking matters into my own hands. So I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not going to have conversations about mental health. I'm not going to tell my family. It's a very, very dangerous precedent that I think is happening in this country around healthcare and wellness and politics, as well as even law enforcement, that when people get to the point where we don't care and we're not seeking help.
No. Yeah, no, it's a very bad situation to be in. And, we'll continue to follow this story and see what happens, because the fact of the matter is, this story affects all of us. So whether you're a young woman, whether you have daughters, whether you have granddaughters, the story will affect all of us. So we'll continue to follow it and see how we can support and learn from this and hopefully get justice for Brittany as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got to take another pause when we come forward. Doc wants to bring us up to date. It is that time of years. The holidays are upon us. But Doc said that you must beware of holiday heart. You say, well, what is that? Dr. Bridget got the answer for us, and she's going to give us the ways that we can prevent it from happening. So stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. The holidays are upon us, and guess what? In the midst of all of the hustle and bustle, folks are very concerned about what the medical impact that the holidays can bring. Now, we certainly know that the holidays can be, quote unquote, a joyous time of year for some, and can be a depressing time of year for others. But one thing is for sure, that we all should be concerned about is what the medical community is calling holiday heart, and how you can do your part to prevent holiday heart from happening. Let me bring back my sister, Dr. Bridget, in for this, because I've never heard of this terminology until you brought this to mind. I've never heard this.
You know, the reason why I even brought it up is because I was talking to a friend and I was like, 'tis the season, it's holiday heart time. And when I didn't think it was a medical term, you know, I thought it was kind of like something that everybody knew about. And so that's what made me look it up and want to share it today. So I think it's excellent to have this conversation.
Yo, absolutely. So what is that? What is holiday heart, Doc?
So we call it holiday heart, is really an increase in atrial fibrillation. So this is chaotic heart beating, you know, usually palpitations being incredibly fast. So your heart goes from a normal pulse to incredibly high pulse, and it usually has to do with binge alcohol consumption. Okay.
Wow.
And so it happens, when do you drink a little bit more? During the holidays, right? So you have this irregular and very rapid beat that happens. And it's basically with atrial fibrillation, instead of having, your heart is this electrical muscle that has electrical currents that make the heart beat and then pump the blood out. Well, everything gets chaotic and the electrical circuits are coming from everywhere, from multiple sites, and it actually doesn't pump the blood out of the heart. It starts to pull inside the heart and then starts actually creating more almost like clots and coagulation of the blood. And a lot of this happens with alcohol because it stimulates the vagus nerve in our bodies, which actually causes the chaotic heart beating. Okay. So when this isn't treated, and now you have this blood that can't get out of the heart, that you have areas in your brain that are not getting the blood, the increase of having an ischemic, so a stroke due to a lack of blood, increases 3 to 5 times because of atrial fibrillation. Again, it's called holiday heart because the top 3 days for a heart attack, and so this happens with stroke and with heart attack with atrial fibrillation, is Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, December 26th, and New Year's Day. So it happens on the days that people start to binge heavily. And so when you often think back and say, well, I've always thought more people seem to die around the holidays when I was growing up. It was something that kind of hit me at some point. This is a big part of it. And so it's something that we need to do to be mindful of so that we don't fall victim to this.
Wow. So Christmas Day,
didn't I?
December 20th, say it again?
I just ruined the holidays altogether, didn't I?
No. Well, you know what you just did, Doc? You saved somebody's life.
I hope so. I think
you just saved somebody's life. Like, we cannot go hard during the holidays. So you're talking about Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, the 26th, and which is the beginning of Kwanzaa as well, and New Year's Day. I'm surprised New Year's Eve isn't on that list.
Because you got to take it New Year's Eve to actually have the symptoms by New Year's Day. So like Christmas Day is because you went hard on Christmas Eve. And so you start to see the symptoms the next day. Or you're drinking hard on Christmas Day and you start to see the symptoms the day after. And with New Year's Day, you went wild on New Year's Eve. And so you start to see the symptoms on New Year's Day. So
we got to take. Hey, look, I want to kind of get your take on this because I want us to see, what the symptoms, but more importantly, what can we do to prevent this? We got to take one final pause. Folks, stay with us as we talk about holiday heart and how you can prevent that from happening to you or a loved one. Make sure you stick around. Doc got some great information for us up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back. We've been checking in with Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, and she's talking about holiday heart, the syndrome where your heart might be putting in too much work due to some alcohol consumption. And it also threw in there, Doc, it talked about, I know just in doing some research on this, that it's also due to overeating.
Yes. Yes. So it can be from overeating as well. And it's just putting so much stress on your body all at one time. And so when you're talking about, what you can do to avoid some of this, and, maybe I should get into the symptoms first, but watching your alcohol intake and how much you're eating can actually save your life.
So don't go hard at the table.
Right.
And what kind of foods are generally make you more susceptible to this? Is it like sugary foods, salty foods? What kind of foods?
I mean, the things that we tend to overindulge in during the holidays, it's the good stuff, right? It's the high fat, it's the high sugar, it's whatever is straining our bodies that much more can actually lead to this. Alcohol is due to actually the alcohol itself, but obviously to a lot of the sugar that's involved in the alcohol. So trying to have, I often talk about temperance, to be careful on how much you indulge in anything, right? Moderation is really key during the holidays. We tend to overdo it entirely all the time. And that doesn't lead to often a desirable outcome at the end of your evening or the next day. And it could actually, kill you if you go too hard. So you definitely want to watch out for this and be mindful of it. Keep in mind, another part of this is not just the eating and the drinking, but people tend to skip their medications over the holidays, right? Your a good time, you're with your family, you kind of forget to take your medication. And that can also play a big part in this as well.
All right, so talk to us about what are some of the big signs that folks need to look out for,
Right.
Just in case they may think they have holiday heart.
Well, I think it's really important to look out for our family members, and particularly sometimes our older family members that don't even notice this initially. So the first thing that they're probably going to notice is that there's an irregular heartbeat, that when you go to check their pulse, that you can't really feel it because it's going so quickly and it's not actually getting the blood out. So if you're not feeling a good, strong pulse, that might be a concern. If they feel like their heart's beating strangely and quickly with palpitations and fluttering and pounding, that's another symptom. Clearly, when the blood isn't pumping like it should, the person's going to start to feel a little lightheaded. They might feel incredibly fatigued and tired. Like some people will have symptoms that hit them all at once, and other people, they're going on for days and they seem to be fine, but they're just a little tired and they're a little bit more short of breath. Ask some key questions because it might be atrial fibrillation. Women particularly have sometimes unusual side effects or symptoms, and they might have more neck or back or shoulder pain involved. So if you have someone that has chest pain or just seems to be out of sorts, let this be in the back of your mind because you could literally be saving their lives.
Wow, that's some good stuff right there. Now, talk to us about those who partake in cannabis use. How does that play into, what would be your recommendations for the holidays? Because I know dispensaries and everybody else, they're going to be packing on.
They do.
They're going to be bringing it in.
So what I really want people to be aware of is that particularly if you're not a regular cannabis THC user, your heart rate usually will increase and you might have palpitations right at the beginning of use. As you become more of a regular user, you're less aware of this. So I am very conscious of my cardiac patients, what they're using and how they're using it. Okay. So if you're choosing to indulge in cannabis over the holidays, you don't need 30, 35% THC. Take it slow, take it low. That's what we usually say. Start with a lower THC amount. Keep in mind, we're looking at 30, 35% now across the country at dispensaries. The cannabis of the 60s and 70s was 12%. And those folks got high just fine without having 35%. Okay. Be conscious of how much are you taking in. Take it slower. You don't have to, be glued to the couch and knocked out. Because the more you take, the more you get paranoid, right? So enjoy the holiday. Don't ruin it for yourself or for your loved ones. And be mindful if you are a cardiac patient, be careful and take it slow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's some good recommendation. Hey, you know what else is a great recommendation? Get Encouraged in Cannabis Volume 1 and 2 for your holiday treat.
Yeah. Oh,
it makes a great stocking stuffer.
Great stocking stuffer, great stories on Amazon.com right now. The book has been an amazing ride so far.
Right, absolutely. So I'm happy that you kind of gave us some insight into this holiday heart situation, just because I do know that we like to go hard, but I do find that I think a lot of Black folks in this country are moving away from the old school soul food, salt, sugary type stuff that we all grew up on, and getting into a much more healthier alternative eating diet. And drinking, you know what I'm saying? And that we might take a drink here or two, but we understand the impact of that. So I think we are moving in a very, very good direction. And even with the cannabis use, you're like moving in a good direction that's more beneficial to us. But I truly appreciate you for just sharing that, because again, I didn't know that this was even a thing. But even over the next couple of days, and just making sure that I'm not going crazy and doing, because I have a bad sweet tooth, Doc. I'm gonna tell you that much. I have a terrible sweet tooth. But I gotta, each time I see a pie, I'm not a cake guy, but every time I see a pie, I'm just like,
gotta have it.
I gotta have a whole conversation with myself. Like, it bothers me. So I learned how to make my own pies at this point. I just learned how to cook my own pies and just be like, all right, let me just cook it the way I need to cook it.
Temperance. A little bit is okay. A lot of anything will do you in. So, you can still have it, just have a slither.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right.
Just a slither for the first half hour. And then with ice cream, the vegan ice cream on top.
The vegan ice cream, that helps.
You gotta have the cashew milk vegan ice cream on top for those of us who can't do the dairy thing. So
yeah. Fair enough. Well, definitely enjoy the holidays, right?
Absolutely, Doc.
But be mindful. And honestly, I think it's looking out for the people around us more than anything, right? Just making sure that they feel okay and they're enjoying their time and they're not going too hard too quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Bridget, it's always a pleasure to connect with you. You have any sort of after chat this evening?
Yes, so we will be doing at 6:00 healthy relationships only, and we will be covering privacy versus secrecy. So whether it's the phone or what have you, it's we're in a different age, of course, right? Before, I don't even know what year, 2000, before that, smartphones weren't an issue. And so did I choose the right year? I don't know when we created smartphones. But these weren't issues, and privacy and secrecy aren't the same. So
that's true. That is absolutely true. Well, that's a great conversation. I know y'all talked about social media before and the impact that it has on relationships. Yeah. And these are ongoing conversations because I don't think, there are always new cases, new studies, new situations that come up. And Doc, maybe we should talk about this. I saw Shirley Ralph talk about her being married for 20 years. Her husband is, I think he's a political leader in the state of Virginia. They don't live together. They don't live together, according to the reports. Now, there was one report that was put out that said she's moving in with him. She was like, no, that's not true. But they don't live together, and they have maintained a 20-year marriage. So I don't know if you want to throw that in the mix one day.
I think there's something to be said about it, right? Well, the fact of the matter is we have like this one idea of what it means to be in a relationship, and it can be so many other ways. And it's really, again, it's up to you and what's right for you and your partner. And so broadening the idea of what feels good for you is dig deep and do what works for you. We don't have to follow these archaic rules that have nothing to do with us as individuals. So if she wants to live by, I get it.
I get it. You know what? That's your relationship. If it keeps you and your husband happy, so be it. Right. So be it. Mingley, you said Farajii, are vegan pies good? Be honest. Of course they're good. I mean, they're legitimately good. You can have vegan desserts, vegan gluten-free desserts. That's what I mean. Vegan gluten-free desserts. Of course they're good. You can use. Please don't let nobody tell you that vegan food is not good. Please don't get into that. You just got to expand the palate. Who's this? Who else?
Like who said that? Who said that everything has to be with cow's milk? Like, why are we so obsessed with one way of eating? Right? Like, I eat a lot of vegan stuff, and I'm vegan-ish. I don't consider myself vegan at all. I'm vegan-ish, and so, but there's a lot of great stuff that we're missing because we only look at food one way.
That's true. That is true. Hey, y'all, make sure y'all follow my sister, Dr. Bridget, on all social media platforms. Doc, what's the handle?
Oh, Dr. Bridget, MD. So come on by at 6:00, join the conversation. I think there's, it's with family attorney Jamie Joy Campbell, myself, family physician, Dr. Bridget. There's a little image there. And let's get into a conversation about what it looks like to have a healthy relationship.
There it is right there. Dr. Bridget, y'all can check her out every Monday here on The Culture for her segment, Reclaim Your Wellness. And she got a dope little collage that she posted on her on her IG page, man. That was dope about her. Her little year in review. It doesn't even cover all the places and spaces and things she's been doing, but she's had a phenomenal 2023, and I know she's looking forward to 2024. And I'm just so happy that she can spend that time with us here on The Culture. So, Dr. Bridget, thank you so much.
Thank you.
God willing, we will be, let's see, next week is Christmas. The next time we talk to you will be, God willing, the new year of 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it. And thank you for always having me here. So I appreciate you as well.
Absolutely. No doubt at all. All right, folks. Thank you so much, Doc. We truly appreciate you. Folks, that's going to do it for me. I thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Fantastic conversation. Big shout out to y'all, man. My online culture crew. Always bringing the heat, always bringing the insight, always bringing the comments and having something to say about these discussions. There we go. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Support us here at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on all social media. And most importantly, please give something to continue to empower us through this movement. We truly, truly thank you for your donations. We truly, truly thank you for your time. We thank you for all that you have done. And we cannot thank you enough. So y'all, my online culture crew, man, y'all are absolutely fantastic. The best group of online watchers that we have that's on the internet. So thank you for tuning in. And we look forward to continue to serve you for the rest of this week as we go into the new year. All right. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Big shout out to my production team, my man King Keenan and my lady Maddie. Thank you so much for holding it down. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great afternoon. Have a wonderful evening. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
You're rocking with the best.